What did you guys see in terms of the aftermath and impact following the Netflix series?
It was a whirlwind, to be honest. There was a lot of positives, but obviously, naturally, there were some negatives.
Because we've built our business in the high end of the market, we're trusted. And that holds keys. Off market is a definition. And if you asked 20 top advisors in the market, everyone would probably have a slightly different definition of what off market is.
Episode 2, Oliver Ingles and Benji Weinberger. In this episode, I interview Oliver Ingles and Benji Weinberger from DDRE Global, two operators at the very top of London's ultra-prime property market, advising over £1 billion worth of transactions and working with some of the most sophisticated clients in the world. We talk about property, tax structuring, and how money actually moves at the highest level, from off-market deals to global capital flows, and how tax is quietly shaping behaviour across the market. This episode is about access, influence, and understanding the real drivers behind high-value transaction. This episode is sponsored by Dex, the all-in-one bookkeeping and automation platform, helping you stay organised and in control of your finances in real time. Ollie, Benji, great to have you on. For anyone who doesn't know, Ollie has advised on over £850 million worth of transactions, previously with Berkshire Hathaway, and now advising at the very top end of the market. And Benji, quite similar, with over £825 million in sales, youngest partner at Knight Frank, and now one of the most active operators in the £5 to £50 million space. And together, part of DDRE Global, one of the fastest growing, most talked about names in prime property right now. Let's start simple, gents. What does life actually look like for you right now?
Well, first of all, what an intro. And thank you very much for having us, Mitch. We're delighted to be on the podcast. We're really looking forward to today. What does life look like at this moment? Wow. I was literally just saying to Benji in the car on the way over here, the majority of my business is sales and acquisition, okay? And from about 2 weeks ago, with obviously what's happening geopolitically and the conflict in the Middle East, literally over the past 2 days, I've been out with clients from the Middle East looking at securing 6 to 12 month rentals for them. And it just shows how you have to pivot, and we work for our clients depending upon whether or not they want to sell, acquire a home, looking in London, abroad. They come to us as their pillar, and then we have to work around them and their strategy. So my days at the moment over the last few days have been showing them rental properties, and it just changed like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And for you?
Yeah, I mean, life's great at the moment. You know, we often, and hearing that introduction, we're in the thick of what we're doing at DDRE Global, you know, trying to disrupt an industry, which I think we've very much done. And it's sometimes nice to kind of take yourself out of being in the thick of it the whole time and actually realize what we're doing. And hearing that intro was a bit of that moment for me. So life is good at the moment. We're busy and we're changing an industry. So it's very exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I look forward to digging into how you go about doing that as the podcast goes on. But if we take a step back and look at your journey in real estate and estate agency and your progression, because this is quite interesting to get to where you've come to. You both came from elite institutions, well known in the industry, Knight Frank, Berkshire Hathaway. What did those environments teach you that you've deliberately chosen to do differently now?
I think the key for me, and, I'm super grateful for the 8 years that I had at Knight Frank, learned so much, built an amazing network, met amazing people. The thing that I have changed, which is probably the biggest regret of, my formative years in the industry, was understanding that the thing that's the most important is the relationship, not the property. And for the first 5-6 years of being at Knight Frank, I was a robot. It was all transactional. I would just focus on the property, was so keen on getting that property sold that I just completely lost sight of the person that I was dealing with. So that's something that I absolutely champion now. That not I don't care about the property. That obviously wouldn't be true. But for me, it's 95% about the relationship and going above and beyond for that person.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, super true. I think for me, when you're at a corporate structure, you have to sit behind your desk between 8:30 and 6:30. And in those moments where, you always look in these estate agencies now and people are just sat there behind their phones, just scrolling. And they're the people I worry for the most, because during those moments now, me and Benji are out meeting new people, networking, creating content, being strategic for our clients, offering advice. And that for me is the biggest pillar that has to change. You have to now, the people who will win in the future are the people who are liked and trusted. And now you have to put yourself in front of the customer. It's the people who are closest to the customer wins.
Yeah.
And Benji and I relate on this a lot, where a client to us is someone that we walk down the street and we give them a hug. It's not just a handshake, it's a hug. And like I said at the start, people come back to us now because of those relationships.
Yeah.
And so for me, that's the fundamentals of Berkshire Hathaway, Knight Frank. The structure, the training you get there is phenomenal, and we're both in our positions now because of them. But we also realize now the way the industry is changing.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, just imagine being in a corporate company and just being like to your boss, I'm going to pop out for 2 hours because I'm going on a podcast. You just would never be able to do that, right? I often think when I go for coffees with people, whether it's agents, buyers, sellers, just the idea of being out of the office in a coffee environment, you just would never really do that in the corporate world.
Yeah. And a big decision, like me, I left, I guess, not so much a corporate world, but I left being as a partner of a firm, being employed, having that safety of the salary and everything else. Your decision to leave your respective safety nets, I guess, of the corporate environment, was that decision more commercially orientated, or was it more about control, autonomy?
I think a mixture of both, in truth. At the beginning, I know Wally was as well, but I was shitting myself. Sorry, I don't know if you can swear on this podcast. I was extremely nervous to leave, my comfort zone. And I think that was the point when I realized I had to leave Knight Frank, because I was comfortable. And I think being comfortable is a very dangerous place. Leaving a stable, salaried plus commission role to have no income, no salary, no set salary, you don't know where your next deal is going to come from, was a massive risk. So from a commercial point of view, it could have been a silly decision at the beginning, but ultimately, if things go well and you're on an aggressive fee structure that we are, commercially it can be significantly better. But from the freedom side, as we just touched on with the point before, the work-life balance that we now have, we don't have working hours. For some people going into the brokerage world, if you don't have structure, that can actually work against you. But if you're committed and you have that structure, I actually am working more, but I can decide that and I have that choice. So that freedom side for me, you can't put a value on that. So I think it's actually turned out better for both sides.
Both sides, yeah, absolutely. And moving on to the phenom that is DDRE Global. DDRE gets described as a real estate company, but it feels like something much bigger than that you're creating. Are you a brokerage or a media-driven deal platform?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question. And I actually was speaking to a wealth manager the other morning, and he asked me a very similar question. And I said to him, I think anybody in any sector now, has to be a digital content creator, marketeer that just happens to specialize in real estate, tax. The model's changed. We are, and actually just listening to Benji about moving, anyone that does this decision, you have to be an entrepreneur. You have to be driven by being uncomfortable, pushing forwards. And this is what DDRE, this is the environment that we have here. We talk every single day, not about property. We're talking about everything else. We're talking about the digital environment. We're talking about how we can grow our businesses and the wins, the small wins, the big wins. And you have to have that real drive behind you. But are we a media-based company? Yeah. Are we a brokerage? Yeah. We are a platform, based operator who DDRE has given Benji and I the opportunity to grow our businesses, influence other people, and ultimately service our clients in the way that we want them to be serviced.
Yeah. And how much of your success today is down to your deal making skills over and above the distribution that you have and to your audience?
Well, I think the two can go hand in
Yeah.
hand, right? I think it's all good and well having the best listings and, having amazing buyers, but if your distribution and your reach doesn't get seen by anyone, it's kind of irrelevant. I think the deal making is, the skill set, very important, but I think that comes with time. And I think the more experienced you are, the more deals you do, the more mistakes you make, you will become a better negotiator. There's no surprise that the best operators at the top end of the market in prime central London are probably over the age of late 30s, going into their 40s and 50s, because that is what comes with experience. But then, the brokerage that we have and having amazing people in our business, there are 21, 22, 23-year-olds who have very little experience or have been in the industry for less than a year who are doing significant deals because they've got amazing people around them. They can pick up the phone to Danny, to Ollie, to me, and get that expertise that might take you 3, 5, 10 years to learn that yourself. But if you can leverage from the bigger broker community that we have at DDRE, everyone benefits.
Yeah.
What was really quite actually interesting with this, Mitch, is we did some research the other week about deals over £10 million over the last 10 years. Okay. About 10 years ago, there's a common theme of about 70 transactions over £10 million, which happen per annum.
Okay.
10 years ago, out of the 70 transactions, there were 3 agencies, okay, that did 50 of those deals. So 75% of them were done by 3 agencies.
Yeah.
Last year, the same 70 transactions that were done, 50 different agencies.
Wow.
And the dilution now of the personal brand is now being exposed more than ever, because like Benji and I and many other people who have left these big corporate entities, clients follow you.
Yeah.
It's not the door, it's not the brand above the door anymore. They go back to Ollie and Benji. The distribution now of having a personal brand, which more than anyone as well. You can sit and talk to a camera now and hit 100, 200,000 people in a week.
Yeah. And I guess, I know we're talking about the high net worth type of the market, but I guess for, the traditional local estate agents and estate agents around the world, that traditionally have relied just on portals, selling property. Have you seen your influence or the DDRE influence in the UK filter down to more traditional estate agency model at the normal end?
Yeah, more and more. And I think Benji said it when actually we first started this podcast. Sometimes we don't know the influence we have over people until we get invited onto podcasts or someone from the other side of the world reaches out to us and says, I love what you're doing and you've inspired me to do this. And there have been so many people, that have reached out to Benji and I personally and been like, we love the collaborative approach. We love the brokers opens that you do and how you're distributing data to agents from across the world to gain more exposure for your clients. And of course, they need to replicate it.
Yeah.
The people actually who can take that methodology and implement it in their markets quicker than anybody else, you are going to win.
Yeah.
And we've obviously had our podcast and had people from all over, the UK and abroad, reach out to us and, like I said, have positive impact on people. So it's definitely filtering. It takes a bit more time because, you get we don't charge the fees here and like you do. You have to change it. We all know, and you have many conversations with clients, it's never a fee-driven environment.
Yeah.
It's the value that you offer. And actually, when you explain it and you explain the strategy to somebody, most people would go, it completely makes sense.
Yeah, and I think as well, to add on to that, we've obviously seen it filter down, where you see people that want to move with the times and they then go and thrive. I've also seen, and I'm obviously not going to name any names, but you see companies that don't.
So we're going to get a bit of a dirt sheet.
No, I don't want to get sued. We actually had a bit of heat from one of our podcasts that we did, so I've learned from that. But yes, as Ollie said, we've seen people that it's filtered down where they replicate and they want to move with the times. I've also seen companies that are stubborn and set in their ways, don't want to do social media, don't want to encourage their agents to be at the forefront of their business and want to hide behind the brand.
Yeah.
And there's companies that are struggling because they're not moving.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which you don't want to see, right?
Don't want to see. No, don't want to see anyone struggle. The impact of Netflix. So obviously, DDRE were commissioned to do a series on Netflix, which helped with the brand even more so. Probably supersized it a little bit. What did you guys see in terms of the aftermath and impact following the Netflix series?
It was a whirlwind, to be honest. There was a lot of positives, but obviously, naturally, there were some negatives. As a business, we had, if you calculate the daily traffic to Knight Frank, Savills, and Sotheby's website at the time that the Netflix show aired, if you combine that footfall and double it, that's what we were experiencing as a business to the traffic to the DDRE website.
Yeah.
Don't forget that Knight Frank, Savills, massive companies, they have different service lines. Ours is purely residential.
Yeah.
We had £300 million worth of leads that came into the business.
Wow.
£25 million listing, £100 million buyer. So from that end, there was, lots of positives. It was top 10 in 55 different countries. But in the UK, unfortunately, behind taxmen, I think estate agents are the most hated.
Yeah.
So it didn't go down too well in the UK.
When you mean taxmen, you mean HMRC. You don't mean people like
Sorry,
me.
so I pointed at you and stared you in the eye.
Only helping.
So there was obviously, some negativity behind it. There was an article in The Guardian which rated it the worst thing and 0 out of 5 stars. And the reality is we had to deal with that as well. It wasn't all... it wasn't all rosy, and we had some clients that, were questioning, did they want to be with DDRE because of the show and those sort of things, and we had to circumnavigate that. But ultimately, in the long run, I think the Netflix show ultimately put Global in the DDRE, which really put us on the same level as our Knight Franks, your Savills, which at the time the business was 3 years old, competing with companies who are 125 years old, and probably in their lifetime haven't had that exposure that we had. Yeah. So it was amazing.
You have to think about how, ballsy it is. Netflix is the biggest, streaming platform now across the globe. More people watch Netflix than they do Sky. It's taking over, so for Daniel, to be in the position to have even the conversations of we'd like to do a show around you and DDRE already cements the caliber of what we were.
Yeah.
And so, anyone in the position will say yes to it, unless you're just completely risk averse. Yeah. Some of the best brokers, we all watch the $1 million listings and the Sirhants and everybody, and it put their business on the map. And that's what it did for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And, one of the biggest things at a very small scale, when people ask us about, starting on social media or any form of media, you've got to get used to being uncomfortable and putting yourself out there. Thick skin. Yeah. I remember when I was first starting, I would get, not you again, not you posting a video. I'll be quiet. So
we have imposter syndrome, don't we? Me and Benji and one of our colleagues at the time, Alex Ivagora, did our first podcast about 3 years ago. Okay, and I watched the very first kind of podcast and how we spoke and how we communicated with each other and how we dictated, etc. And then 3 years later, you look at podcasts and it's like chalk and cheese.
Yeah.
And it's exactly the same with socials. We have people come up to us like, but you're so eloquent on socials and you speak so well. Like, watch me 4 years ago. Yeah. I was watching people about how to speak. I had to change. I had to change how I wanted to communicate with people. So, it's like everything. You start training. You train for it. It's like going to the gym.
So let's talk about dealing with ultra high net worth clients. All of us deal with ultra high net worth clients. It's quite a skill. So let's dig into that a bit more for the listeners. So you're dealing with these clients, ultra high net worth daily. What do you think is ultimately important to them? What do they care about? Is it price? Is it discretion? Is it access or something else?
It's a really good question. And to be honest with you, I think those answers change depending upon the client. One of the constant, trends that I see is that they don't have time, okay, and they don't have access. And that's why I think one of the biggest things that we offer is because we've built our business in the high end of the market, we're trusted.
Yeah.
And that holds keys. That holds keys to homes which you wouldn't be able to normally get access or not be able to see somewhere, okay? And so having that advisor who can not just navigate the nuances of the market and pricing and trends and introducing them to tax advisors, surveyors, lawyers, the right people, that's the ultimate. That is what an advisor does now.
Yeah, I mean, I think also one of the key things is they just want to be dealt with like humans. Yes, they have more money than us and they have more money than most people in the world, but so often they're treated differently because of that. And I actually find that when you just treat them like a normal person, they actually gravitate towards that. So for example, I did a LinkedIn post about this a couple of days ago. Ollie was taking the mick out of me. I was on a viewing tour with a very high profile principal, one of the wealthiest families in Europe. And the smallest thing that I did, I realized on the first viewing tour, on the second viewing tour, he had to take his shoes off because we were going into 20, 30 million pound homes and he hated it. So we narrowed the shortlist down to a couple of properties. On the Friday, I popped to the high street, bought some shoe covers, and I've never seen him smile more than the 3 days that I was with him before.
Yeah.
So I spent £3.75.
Yeah.
And this is a guy that's worth billions. And the happiest he was I gave him something that was worth £3.75.
Yeah.
So I think that human element touch, they actually really appreciate.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think you're 100% right. And you've learned all those little tricks from experience.
Yeah.
Another, and this isn't necessarily related to property, but dealing with the stigma of high net worth or dealing with a high net worth. If you look at our attire, so I'm always in shirt, tie, blazer, or suits. You guys have your own different types of tie. You're always in a blazer. Ollie, you're a bit more, bit more with the jumper and the chinos. What's your perception on attire when you're meeting a high net worth individual?
It's really important, attire, and I think it's underestimated. And we have to dress like chameleons because ultimately, if I'm out with a crypto billionaire who's in his 20s and I turn up in a suit, shirt, and tie, I think automatically we're on opposite ends of the table.
Yeah.
If I know that I'm going to meet him or her and I know their profile because I've done my research and due diligence before, I will change what I wear based on who I'm meeting.
Yes.
If I'm meeting an old school chap who's in his 70s, I will wear a suit, tie, and a shirt. So I think we're always, and we've had many conversations about this, always molding what we wear. And often I've gone into work with two different outfits because I'm meeting two different people. But I think attire is really, really key because it's the first impression, right?
Yeah.
And the first impression in our industry is massive.
Yeah. And I think that's right about the stigma. Everyone who is not necessarily experienced in dealing with a higher net worth individual has that thought, right, it's an older person. But actually what we're seeing now with the next generation of wealth or young entrepreneurs, they're coming into significant wealth, be it selling their businesses or coming into some investments early on, that you need to adapt.
Yeah,
absolutely.
100%.
Running a firm shouldn't feel like you're chasing after it, but clients' receipts soon pile up. Their invoices get lost. Your inbox never stops. Meet Dex, the all-in-one bookkeeping automation platform that helps you make sense of the financial data so you can react in real time. Coming on to our sponsors question. This one's from our sponsors, Dex, the all-in-one bookkeeping automation platform that helps you make sense of your financial data in real time. For a business like yours, with multiple deals, clients, moving parts, what systems do you rely on to stay financially organized?
Dex.
Yeah.
Good answer.
Good answer.
Yeah,
Do you know what though? It's really interesting because when we spoke at the start about going self-employed, okay, and we spoke about having to wear obviously multiple hats, okay, and a lot of people just think, okay, well you've got to be the marketeer, you've got to do socials, you've got to go and find the clients, do the viewings, do the progression, etc. it goes beyond that now because we are all self-employed.
Yeah.
So actually for us, having to quickly learn and have the platforms and AI and apps around us now that can help us with our bookkeeping, tax behind the scenes, everything is, you can't operate without it.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest challenges that an individual faces from going employed to self-employed is that first year of tax, where you have that double hit that no one particularly realizes that's going to happen. You have to pay your tax. Essentially, you have to pay last year's tax,
and in the forward year,
and then the payments on account in the following year. So that always.
But you know what? One of my okay, this goes off topic slightly. Is the education system here in the UK? Okay. Yeah. Now, I have learned so much from you because of social media.
Thank you.
We didn't get that in school. We never got taught about how, if you want to operate as an entrepreneur, your sole trader, limited companies, all the different, how the tax, ways you should do with your money, how you should manage it. We don't get taught that.
Yeah.
So we've had to self-taught ourselves. And the nice thing is now with socials is that you have access to people who are experts in their field where you can take that advice.
Yeah.
But that has surely got to change with the generations going, because like you said, they're younger and younger now.
Yeah. But with the media and the social media platforms, they are getting educated.
Yes.
Rightly or wrongly, depending on what they're watching.
Yes.
But the entrepreneurs are there. I know my son, he's 13 and he's like, right, I want to set up a business and do this and do that. So on the flip side, there is some good education platforms out there.
Agreed.
But yes, the school system is
okay,
backdated back to, it's a big task.
Yeah.
It's a big task. So maybe we'll get someone from the government in to grill them on one of the next episodes. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about property and tax and the market. So last year there was a stat, don't know how accurate it is, but around 47,000 millionaires left the UK. What are you seeing on the ground with your clients in terms of A, leaving the UK, and B, seeing the UK as a place where they want to invest their money?
It was a real interesting landscape over the last 18 months. And funny enough, I summarised this with a quick story, which I had the opportunity to go to Monaco last year with Henley and Partners. And they do citizenship by investment.
Yeah.
And they showed us a world map from 10 years ago. Okay, and they put on this map where the top 5% of wealth was. Okay, and you could see 4 or 5 big, large, circles around certain parts of the globe. And then they showed us it from 12 months ago, and it was like a spider's web. There were dots all over the globe. And I think with the globalization now of businesses, and the fact that back in the day, clients used to have maybe 1 or 2 homes, and 1 or 2 citizenships. Now they're having 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And so the UK, with the reform of the non-dom taxation policy changes, unfortunately, has meant that people take advice from people like us and yourself to future-proof their wealth to where should I live now? And they have options because they don't have to be in one location.
Yeah.
And that unfortunately has created statistics like what you just said, which has meant that we have had clients repositioning their portfolios where they're going to live full time as main residences. And that has meant that we have lost people.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess, with DDRE going global, does that mean that there's opportunities for you guys to work in other jurisdictions on deals on the same client? Or are you guys very much would advise on UK centric?
Well, the beauty of what we do as a business is it's customer centric. So, if we have a relationship with a client and they like, trust and respect us, they want us to go to where it is, Dubai, Ibiza, Monaco, to help them acquire that property. Obviously, we need to be mindful in different jurisdictions. You might need licenses, like in America, for example. But as a business and individually, we've got great networks of agents around the world that we also like, trust and respect. If I can't physically do it, then I will connect my client with someone that can and is an extension of my services. But we've done deals all around the world. So we, are able to facilitate that, absolutely.
But what's interesting now is it changes so quickly. Like with what's happening in the Middle East, and I touched on it earlier, you have to be able to pivot super fast.
Yeah.
And actually now it's the advisors in each different sector who can see what's happening, politically, tax-wise, FX, whatever sector, and able to relate it back to their sector, and then give the right advice to their clients.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it obviously with what's going on in the Middle East and everything. Having a lot of clients have approached me over many years about leaving the UK, establishing out in the UAE as the main hub, particularly for entrepreneurial families. And through what's happened, a bit actually, maybe we will hold off or look at this other jurisdiction.
Yep.
And then on the flip side, we've had clients who have maybe made a capital gain or sold their business,
Yep.
gone over, and they have to remain outside the UK for 5 years
Yes.
for tax purposes, for that gain not to be taxable.
Yeah.
But now their families are nervous and cautious, be like, actually, maybe we didn't think it's as safe as what we thought, and now have to do with a reconsideration. So
we do have to remember sometimes London is what we would always say. It's the best city in the world.
yeah, when it's sunny.
On days like today.
Yeah.
But really it is, from the the cultural element, the arts, the architecture, the safety, the education. Like, we have an amazing city here, and that will always attract people, So whilst there are always lulls, each market, each sector is always cyclical, and London will always be, in my eyes, one of the best bets.
But also, just joking aside, when we said London is the best when it's sunny, talking about weather, you can live in London for 12 months of the year. Whereas if you look at Dubai, the weather is so extreme that you can't live there for 3 months.
Yes.
If you look in other places in America where they have snowstorms and complete opposite end minus 20 degrees, the UK is pretty boring. We just sit bang in the middle.
Yeah.
So I know we joke that London is the best city when it is sunny, which I would agree with you. But you can live in London for the whole year.
Yeah, no, it's true. And in terms of tax,
I'll leave at this point. I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah. What's the rate of? No, I'm joking. How often does that come in to a client's decision making and conversation that you have?
I mean, it's massive. Are we talking acquisition tax, for example?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a conversation that we have on a daily basis. To acquire a property in the UK, the stamp duty is just it's obscene at the moment. And if you're now a non-UK resident, you're buying it as a second home. I don't want to say a number and look silly, but I think you're going to be averaging 17 to 19%. Yeah. That just makes the market so, whatever the opposite word of fluid is. Like, I know what they have in America, where you have the annual tax, which means people can move relatively freely because they haven't had to wait to get that 19% back on the value.
Yeah.
If the market is good in the UK, we're averaging, let's say, 3-4% increase every year. To get that stamp duty back and not make a loss, you now have to hold on to that asset for a minimum of 7 years.
Yeah.
And someone who wants to dot around the world, it's probably cheaper for them to rent, for example. So tax is a conversation we're having the whole time, because the acquisition is just so high on top of the price that they're having to pay.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of structuring, historically we saw high net worths structure their acquisitions via maybe offshore trusts or offshore companies, and then moving forward, maybe UK companies. Given that the tax is so strenuous now, in terms of how clients generally are acquiring properties, what type of ownership structures are you seeing at the moment?
I think separate to tax, I think compliance and anti-money laundering comes into that massively in terms of how people acquire homes. I think historically, as you just mentioned, you could buy it in an offshore company and no one really knows who the beneficial owner is.
Yeah.
And I think that's also something with the mass opening of, you have to disclose who owns what.
Yeah.
They have to have it all the ID and verification done now online. There's no hiding. And I think that's also something that has impacted the London property prices, that now that money is perhaps funneling into Dubai and other places where historically AML and compliance has been significantly lower. But I think, ownership structure is obviously important. I don't know if what you
look, I think we do a lot of acquisition for clients, and to be honest with you, before you start going out to see property, one of the main segments we talk about is how you're going to structure the acquisition.
Yeah.
I found there's so much more wealth planning now for the future. Trusts are huge, I think, at this moment in time, especially for the future, if you're buying investment property or if you're buying secondary homes, etc. But that's the main part of it, getting yourself in a position where you're ready to actually acquire a home.
Yeah.
And so many people actually don't still have that question or don't have that answer. And that's where, again, I think advisors come into play. You know, when we first meet them, they're kind of excited. Okay, this is what I want to buy, Ollie. We have a 10 million budget. We want to be in Mayfair, 3 bedrooms. And I'm almost going, okay, cool. But do you know how you're going to structure the acquisition? Have you set anything up yet? Do you know where it's going to be? What jurisdiction it's going to be in? Have you looked at the tax element for the future now, the capital gains side? There is so many questions, and they almost go, oh, shit, no, I haven't done that. But actually, that's where the advice comes in from us, you know. So it's changed a hell of a lot. And, well, you know as well as anybody, it's an ever-changing and ever-evolving landscape.
Yeah, and this brings me on nicely to my tax tip of the week. So when structuring purchases of real estate, one tax that I feel often gets missed is something called ATED, which you guys may or may not have heard of. It's called the Annual Tax on Envelope Dwellings. It was brought in about 6 years ago, and it's basically when you purchase a residential property which is owned via a limited company, and then you use that property for your own use or your family, then there's an annual tax charge to pay based on the value of the property. So that starts at $500,000 and it goes up in bands.
Yeah.
So if it's $500,000 to $1 million, there's an annual tax to pay on £3,750, and it doubles and doubles and doubles. And I think that's a tax that often gets missed and overlooked. So what we've had to deal with in the past is that actually a lot of people who have purchased properties within a corporate entity used it for their family. So typically you have a high net worth that would buy maybe their child a flat in Kensington or wherever to go to uni in, and that child would live in, but actually the client doesn't realize they've got this ATED responsibility. And along with that, there's an annual tax return, an ATED tax return. If you don't file it, there's penalties. If you do rent it out commercially, there is relief that you can claim, but you still need to file a tax return.
Interesting.
So anyway, that's the ATED.
But you know what? It's really interesting because, and again, this is where I think the good advisors, the good agents are separated from the excellent agents. Okay. A lot of people say, they'll go into a viewing and they'll say it's held in a clean SPV, which can be purchased, and you're going to save 15% stamp duty.
Yeah.
Now, if it was as easy as that, every property across the UK, everything would be held into SPVs because everyone would be doing that.
Yeah.
And they just see it as like, we can save you 15%. Like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
But actually, like you just said, there are so many other sections of acquiring an SPV with a home in. And this is where the additional work.
We've always, with tax, right, nowadays, if it's too good to be true, it probably is, right? Yeah. So people can try and interpret of what they've said, or this advisor is doing that.
Yeah.
But, and there's absolutely, there's big clampdowns on advisors. You know, there was a company back in the day who was aggressively advising on property incorporations. So, you know, for landlords and accidental landlords, the mortgage interest tax restrictions have hit really hard. You can't deduct the full amount of mortgage interest. So that led to a lot of landlords wanting to move their properties to a limited company.
Of course, yeah.
If you move it to a limited company, you're transferring the ownership, so there's capital gains tax.
Yep.
So
There
was aggressive companies who were just trying to interpret that even if you had an investment, you can claim capital gains tax relief when incorporating your business, even if you had another job or doing something else. And HMRC have looked at that now. We're seeing huge amounts of tax investigations into landlords and incorporation. And in fact, not just in that, under Labour, they've invested millions into HMRC, and we are seeing huge amounts of investigations across every area.
Yeah.
Not to necessarily scare people too much, but
this is why you have the people around you, isn't it? This is why you have experts around you to help you.
Yeah, but also like it comes back to the social media thing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
How many property people are there on social media that don't have the knowledge, the contacts, the insurances, the experience that you guys have? Yeah, I mean, you must have seen, you know, loads of.
See it all the time.
I don't know what to call them.
Well, the thing is, there's no regulation in our industry, unlike yours, you know.
Yeah.
So effectively, anyone can put on their handle now on social media, like ultra prime luxury, estate agent, and they've had like 6 months worth of, you know, dealing, and they've shown like 10 homes.
Yeah.
It's mad.
So let's talk about a phrase that you guys talk about a lot is off market. So off market is obviously a huge part of your world as well. How much of that is genuine access versus controlling the marketing narrative?
Off market is a definition, and if you asked 20 top advisors in the market, everyone would probably have a slightly different definition of what off market is. Some people perceive off market just be it's not on a portal. Others would say it's not on socials. Others would say it's not on WhatsApp community groups. It's a definition which has many
not legally binding.
Exactly. And I really don't like the phrase to an extent, because when we sit down with clients, you give them a strategy to sell their home. And there are many different platforms now to sell a home. Okay, we've spoken about socials, portals like Rightmove. There's WhatsApp community groups, which have like 30, 40 of the best advisors in. We have ADVSR international platforms, and you give them a strategy which works best. Okay. The off-market element to it is something which, we would say that we sell 35% of our homes off market. Okay. And that probably means for us, it's not on a portal. I think that's the main definition. It's not on a portal.
Yeah.
But I don't like the phrase, because like I said, you really have to, that changes. And actually it comes down to, again, having a network of people around you, knowing that you have to now collaborate with more agents than ever before. And Benji, you can talk in a second about how many, agents introduce buyers over £10 million, and actually very rarely comes through the singular agent now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, off market is, I think the key word linked to off market is discretion. And, dealing at the top end of the market, whether it's a buyer or a seller, they don't want, it to be blasted out on Rightmove, on Zoopla, to have a Google footprint. Some of these people are high profile, and they don't want everyone knowing where they live, a prehistoric record of photos, floor plans that anyone can have access to, the press can have access to. So I think the key with off market is discretion. We can be as loud as proud as we want to with our listings, or we can go completely under the radar. So the point Ollie was mentioning, there was a house that I sold over in Highgate. We should have taken average norm as 10 months to sell this price point house. We did it in 5 weeks. There is zero Google footprint of the house sale. The only thing that you can find is a bit of press that the client was happy for us to leverage off. But there we went to all of the agents, the local agents that had influence in the market, and we used a piece of technology that we've got, which is proprietary to us, called ADVSR. And we can white label the listing, the photos, floor plans in a web link. So it's not a PDF that goes out and you can't pull it back. And now you click on them, they've all been, you can't click on them, they've been killed. And the agent that performed best was the agent that engaged the most and introduced the buyer. So when we're discreet and we're off market, we still work with incumbents in the marketplace, but in a very controlled and precise manner.
Okay, we're now coming on to the rapid fire round. So maybe we'll do one each.
Okay. Give me the easy ones.
Okay, who wants to start?
Go on, I'll start.
Okay, biggest deal you've ever lost and why?
Okay, biggest deal I ever lost was something at just over £10 million, and it's actually one of the biggest keys that I would give as a nugget of gold. Okay, I told him not to buy it. We were doing a survey, something came up, he really wanted to buy it. We took other external advice, and in the end, I said to him, "You shouldn't buy it." I wrote off £200,000 worth of commission for myself.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But he's now a long-standing client. We've gone on to buy 2 or 3 more homes ever since.
Very good.
Not quick fire, sorry.
No, it's not yes and no, but relative. Smartest career move you've made?
Great question. Twofold. I think one, going on the journey of embracing social media, and the second I would say is joining DDRE Global.
Yeah, thought you might say that. One thing clients get consistently wrong.
One thing clients get consistently wrong.
I can jump in.
You can transfer.
No, it's a really good question.
But one thing clients consistently get wrong is the importance of a low fee. And picking your agent based off the price and the fee.
Brilliant
answer.
It's
so much more than that. And 95% of clients, I think, get that wrong.
Okay. Yeah,
brilliant answer.
Yeah, brilliant answer.
That is weird.
Who are we on? Back to you.
Sorry, we tag each other in. It's like wrestling.
One number you track obsessively.
one number I track obsessively is views on my listings. And that's a cumulative views from socials, international, via ADVSR portals. I am like anally bad with looking at coverage and exposure.
Okay, thank you. And actually, we've got one more after this. Personal brand or institutional brand?
Personal.
Which one is the best longer term?
Personal brand supported by brokerage and or institutional brand. So, for example, my brand should sit at the front, and the brand of whoever I work for or with sits behind me, supporting me.
Yeah.
There's a really actually interesting. Sorry for butting in. There's a really interesting thing that Daniel taught us years and years ago, which he doesn't actually spoke about for a long time. Is that businesses used to be like this, a triangle, okay, where you had all the staff and then you had the brand at the top, okay. Benji would go out with his Knight Frank umbrella and he would be, the face of the brand. Now that's changed like that.
Yeah.
Where the brand should sit behind you, supporting you, but actually now everybody within that company, the staff, the advisors are the face of the brand. They are the brand that elevates them.
Yeah. I think you're totally right. It's something that, I've been doing all my life across whatever firm I'm with. And I think it's ultimately so important to any advisor, whether you're in real estate, tax, law, wealth, clients are choosing their advisors from social media.
Yeah.
Just one thing to add on to that, I think it is imperative, though, that in the world that we're going to, where people are self-employed and can kind of plug and play with different law firms or brokerages, estate agencies, I think it's so important that the person understands the brand that sits behind them, because I think that brand of the corporate entity or the brokerage can really elevate that individual.
Yeah.
But I also think on the flip side, it can kneecap them. Yeah. So, for example, as a business at DDRE, when I give someone my DDRE business cards, that opens a multitude of opportunities at the top end of the market.
Yeah.
If there is an agent that works for a local high street agent that is synonymous with selling properties below £2 million, that business card will not open the doors of a £10 million home, however good that individual is.
Yeah. No, good advice. Gents, thank you very much. Really appreciate you both coming on and sharing your honest insights into what's actually happening in the real estate market and, of course, DDRE. It's clear it's not just about property anymore. It's about access, positioning, personal branding, and understanding the clients. If you've got value from today's episodes, share it with someone operating at a high level. A final thank you to our sponsors, Dex, the all-in-one bookkeeping automation platform, helping businesses stay organized and in control in real time. Subscribe and follow. And remember, when you think tax, think
Mitch the tax man.
Very good.
Very good.